Hello and welcome to Hot Shot Sports with your favorite hot takes, your favorite games, and your favorite analysts. Get ready, Hot Shot Sports is next. Hello and welcome into Hot Shot Sports. I am the human hot take cannon, your host, Miles Garvey. With me is Kyle Larson and David Gasper. Let's get right into it. Our first agenda. We are the first sports show on WMCM here since the World Series has ended. Astros won in 7 games. Series for the ages, probably. What are your guys' thoughts?
I mean, I absolutely love it. I was rooting for the Astros the entire time. They were my World Series pick at the beginning of the season. I said back in March that the Astros were going to win the World Series. They ended up pulling it out in 7 games. Games 2 and 5 were absolute classics. I mean, just the Astros coming back, the back and forth nature of this entire series, 2 evenly matched teams in the Astros and the Dodgers, and the Astros were able to pull it out in amazing fashion.
I agree. Yeah, it was a great series. One of the probably the last 5 or 6 years, the best one for sure. Every game had a great storyline to it. You know, Kershaw dominated Game 1. The back and forth of Game 3 that they got to you really early. Game 7, obviously, getting to you early. Yeah, it was a great series, that's for sure.
Definitely. Games, like you said, what were they? 2 and 5. 2 and 5 were instant classics. But then you throw in Game 7, which I thought was a big letdown. That's why I kind of thought last year's World Series was almost even better, just because Game 7 was so huge. It was the 3-1 comeback, the Cubs come in, and it goes to extras, and the Cubs end up winning, breaking the 108-year streak. This is Houston's actually their first one, so again, it's a huge streak that is broken. I think, 50, 60 years since the Astros have been in, and they haven't won a World Series. Now this is their first one, behind just an amazing team with Altuve, Correa, Springer, just all the talent. They bring in Verlander. They have not Keuchel. Yeah, it's a Keuchel.
Yeah, Dallas Keuchel.
Keuchel. Yeah, no, it was a very amazing team, very crazy. But Game 7, like I said, was just kind of a dud. The Astros winning 5-1. The Dodgers leaving everybody on base, it seemed. I think Puig went like 0 for 3 or 0 for 4. Right. Bellinger had the most strikeouts in a World Series this series. But it was a good series. For sure, for definitely sure.
Yeah, and especially in Game 7 with basically all the runs the Astros scored were in the first and second inning. Yeah. And it was just kind of maintaining that lead throughout the whole game. And it was just Yu Darvish basically kind of struggling the entire World Series. He had an ERA of 21.60 in 3 1/3 innings. And I mean, I agree with the decision to start him in Game 7 because that's what they paid for at the trade deadline. And they just had to put him in. Clayton Kershaw shut him down, but it was too late.
Yeah, are you sure you still agree? Do you really think they should have started Yu Darvish instead of like Kershaw again off short days rest? I know, or another guy.
If Kershaw doesn't have any success starting him at short rest, then the decision gets questioned even more because they went out to get Darvish for these moments, for a Game 7 of the World Series.
But then maybe they didn't pull him, early enough, you think? You think they should have pulled him earlier than they did instead of
it's certainly a tough decision to pull your starter that early in a Game 7.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, so moving on. Baseball season is over. Let's get into what really is in the heart of sports right now, and that is the playoff race in the NFL. Let's start with the NFC. Obviously, us being from Wisconsin and Minnesota, we are NFC North guys, and we love the NFC. So where do you see right now the playoff standings? Let me inform the viewers. We do have Philadelphia at number 1. We have the Saints as the number 2 seed. The Vikings are number 3. The LA Rams are the 4th. Carolina is our 5. Dallas is the 6th, and Seattle is the 7th looking in. Where do you guys see this playoff race unfolding?
I think it's going to kind of stay how it looks right now. I think the Vikings in the North, definitely, with Rodgers' injury, the Bears and the Lions, they're they've got it locked down. They should be able to beat everybody else in the North and take the division. The Rams are playing amazing. It's a surprise this year out of the West. I think they're going to take the West. Eagles, that's, everybody's favorite right now. It seems to be the Eagles. They just put up, 51 against the Broncos.
Yep.
That was a great offensive showing. The South, the Saints, they finally have a good defense. Who thought we'd be watching a Saints defense dominate games?
And the Saints, they've just kind of been mediocre for the past couple of years, and Drew Brees is getting up there, but he's still having a really good season for the Saints. I think they're going to be able to take that division. The Rams, Jared Goff is finally proving that he's worth that number 1 overall pick. I think they're going to be able to take that division. The Eagles are definite favorites right now in the NFC. As hard to believe as that is, just kind of the way that organization has been. And the Vikings, they've got a great chance this year with Aaron Rodgers down. The NFC North is basically up for grabs. They currently have the spot. And the Lions, I just don't think they're there yet.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. I just don't see, as a Vikings fan, I don't really see the Lions as, of actual threat, because just based on history, it's been 1993 is the last time the Lions have ever won a division, and they have never won the NFC North. So I just based on history, I really don't see them as, a threat to the Minnesota Vikings. As I have it right now, I think that for my final seedings, I think it'll be Philly, and then Minnesota getting the 2. I think Seattle comes back and wins that division with the Rams. And then I think New Orleans kind of falls off a little bit. They get the 4 seed. And then around, I think the Rams still get in. Goff playing very well. They're the best offensive team in football right now. They also put up 51 last Sunday as well. And then I think Carolina sneaks in. I think Dallas falls off because we don't know what's happening to Zeke. And without Zeke, I just don't see them as, a real threat to make the playoffs with just Dak and then Alfred Morris and Darren McFadden behind that offensive line. As a Minnesota fan, I really want to believe that Minnesota is going to be able to, get to 11-5 and be that 2nd seed. Hopefully Teddy Bridgewater can come back and make a play. And speaking of that, do you guys see, if Teddy Bridgewater comes back, do you see the Vikings as being not just a playoff team, but maybe playoff Super Bowl contender? And plays well, like he was playing before his injury.
The Vikings certainly have a great defense, and getting Teddy Bridgewater, getting a good quarterback to lead that team is going to be very important to getting them to any chance at a Super Bowl.
Yeah, I agree. Quarterback leadership is vital to any playoff run you're going to make.
Definitely. All right, so moving on from the NFC, get to the AFC. Let's go. Right now we have Pittsburgh as the 1 seed. New England as that 2 seed, Kansas City as your 3, Tennessee as the 4, Jacksonville actually as your 5, and Buffalo as your 6. Miami is the 7 looking in. What do you guys think for the AFC?
That AFC South is very weak and completely up for grabs. There's no Deshaun Watson, there's no Andrew Luck, and Tennessee and Jacksonville, they're atop the division. And I think it's great that those teams have a chance to get into the playoffs this year. I don't see them really doing much with a playoff spot. But, the Patriots, they're getting a little surprise pressure from the Buffalo Bills. But the Bills did lose to the Jets pretty badly, which killed most of their momentum.
Yeah, I agree. In the West, I really like the Chiefs. I love that combination of Hill, Hunt, Kelsey, and Smith. Those guys are explosive. They can always put up a big play. The Jags, I have Fournette on my fantasy team, so I'm pretty pleased with how he's running the ball. But yeah, with him getting suspended last week, he had another week to kind of get healthy. So I think the Jags running game is going to keep him in the hunt.
Definitely.
Sure.
I think Jacksonville's going to take that division. I don't see Tennessee as a team that's actually as good as their record shows. I don't think Marcus Mariota plays well on the road particularly. So I think they're going to be around 500, and I think Jacksonville can go 9-7, 10-6, especially without Deshaun Watson, that terrible injury. And I see them being able to take that division. So I actually have New England passing Pittsburgh to get to that number 1 seed, and then Pittsburgh at the 2, Kansas City falling to staying at the 3, Jacksonville at the 4, Buffalo being the 5 seed, and Tennessee still squeaking in at the 6, because I don't see a lot of other teams besides maybe Baltimore coming up and making a playoff push. And Buffalo plays Jacksonville in that scenario in the first round, and Buffalo doesn't only make the playoffs this year, but also wins a playoff game. And they haven't made the playoffs since 1999, so that would be amazing to make the playoffs for the first time in 18 years and then win a playoff game, actually.
Yeah, and they have the longest playoff drought
Yes.
in the entire NFL. And the Buffalo Bills, they've been they've been close for a while, and they just kind of need that just one little thing to push them over the top.
Yeah.
And this year, it seems like they finally found it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, going off that, I think the Steelers, they're going to keep in the hunt. Ben Roethlisberger, veteran quarterback, Brown and Juju Smith-Schuster, those guys have been, well, Smith-Schuster has been a huge surprise this year. But, anytime you have Le'Veon Bell and can control the game with the running game, I think they're in good shape.
Right. I think Pittsburgh Steelers have really figured it out now that it's giving Le'Veon Bell the ball like 30 times a game, making sure that they can control the clock and, win games instead of just constantly relying on Big Ben to throw the ball 50 times. So, speaking of AFC and NFC now, where do you guys see the top two teams? Who are the top two teams in that division, or in those conferences, and who plays in the Super Bowl?
Well, sticking with the NFC to start, I really like the Eagles, especially with the addition of Jay Ajayi. Now they have him, LeGarrette Blount, Wendell Smallwood at the running backs.
Corey Clement.
Corey Clement, yeah.
3 touchdowns.
3
last year?
touchdowns.
Or
Wisconsin.
last game week.
Yeah. I see their offense is just going to carry them to the Super Bowl. Same thing with the Chiefs in the AFC. They're my pick to win the AFC. Like I said before, I just love that combination, how explosive they can be.
If Andy Reid beat Philly in the Super Bowl,
that would be great.
That would be amazing.
Did you take a look at my sheet? I had the Eagles Chiefs in the Super Bowl too. I mean, these two teams, the Chiefs, they're taking advantage out west of the Raiders that have basically kind of fallen apart. They haven't been able to put together and duplicate their success from last year. The Chiefs have a really good team, Alex Smith leading it. The Eagles, getting Jay Ajayi for a 4th-round pick, that's an absolute steal.
And beast.
And they've just been playing so extremely well. Carson Wentz looks like an incredible NFL quarterback, even though he came from North Dakota State. But I got Eagles Chiefs in the Super Bowl.
Eagles Chiefs. I do not have the Chiefs. I do have Philly. I was really, really tempted to put Seattle. I think Seattle is playing really well. They just got Dwayne Brown from the Texans to try and help that offensive line get better. Their defense did get kind of mopped up by Deshaun Watson, but Deshaun Watson has been doing that to defenses all year before his injury this past week. So I really was really tempted to put Seattle in there. I think they're only going to get better, and I trust Russell Wilson and Pete Carroll in the playoffs a lot more than I would maybe Carson Wentz and Doug Peterson right now. But I did take Philly. I put Philly in the Super Bowl because I just love everything about them. They did lose Jason Peters, their left tackle, which is going to be rough, but their offensive line is still going to be good, and their defense is still very good. So I'm going to take the Eagles, and they did just put up 51 on the Broncos defense, which is probably the best in the league. So I also have New England, though. I'm never going to bet against Brady and Belichick. I think it's the dumbest thing to do. I did it, I think, last year, and then what do? They went into the Super Bowl. I thought they were going to go 16-0. They started, 1-2 in a really bad place, but that defense is stepping up. The defense is getting together, and that offense is really starting to click now, too. Rob Gronkowski's healthy, Brandon Cooks and Brady on timing. So I just think there's no way the Patriots don't make the Super Bowl, and I'm not sure they don't win it again. You guys,
if Brady and Belichick get into the Super Bowl, it's definitely going to be tough to try and beat them.
Especially with a second-year quarterback in Carson Wentz and I believe a second-year or third-year coach in Doug Peterson.
Right.
Right. So anyway, that's what we got for you on the NFL. Come back, we start playing our favorite games on Hot Shot Sports. But first, let's go take a look at the perfect pets.
Hey there, I'm Sienna. I'm an energetic girl who needs a lot of exercise. I'd love to go for a run with you.
Hi, I'm Violet. I'm a sweet, gentle 11-year-old girl who's still young at heart. I only have 3 legs, but my heart is twice the normal size.
Well, hey there, I'm Lance. I'm one little guy who just loves exploring, but I'd really love to explore my new forever home.
Hello, I'm Mystic. I'm a little shy at first, but when I warm up, I love to play, and I'm looking for my forever owner.
To find out more about adoption for these pets or others, contact the Cooley Region Humane Society at 781-4014.
Again, the number for the Cooley Region Humane Society is 781-4014. All right, let's get into our favorite game. Cheers cheers, and tears. Our first cheer is the Astros winning the World Series. We brought it up earlier in the show. Again, first ever win for the Houston Astros in the or for the World Series. Anything for it, guys?
I mean, it was also their first World Series game wins. I mean, they made it to the World Series in 2005 against the Chicago White Sox, and they got swept in 4 games. And now they come back and they win in 7 games, and they had the better team, I think, having a huge parade downtown Houston, and it was just a great series overall.
Yeah, I agree. As a Brewers fan, you can kind of take a look at how they got there, how their roster got there. A lot of drafting developed, and a couple trades sprinkled in there too. So there's hope for Brewers fans in looking at the Astros and how they ran it. And the GM David Stearns was in the Houston Astros organization when they were building it up. So
especially after having 3 straight years of 100 loss seasons. I mean that organization was at the bottom of Major League Baseball for years, and now they finally come back and make it to the top.
Yes, so going on to our next cheer, our second cheer is the Bucks get Eric Bledsoe. They win the Eric Bledsoe sweepstakes. What are you guys' thoughts? Does Bledsoe make them a contender in the East?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. I've never been that big on Greg Monroe. I thought he was kind of a fantasy, or not fantasy. He was just kind of a free agent bust. He really didn't pan out. He's a solid rebounder, but we need scoring, and that's what Bledsoe is going to be able to give to the Bucks.
Yeah, I mean, especially giving up Greg Monroe, now you get a guard that you need. And, I mean, Bledsoe really didn't like it out there in Phoenix. But, I mean, they win this trade, and in a very weak Eastern Conference, the Bucks now have a chance to make it all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals, I think.
Yep, going on to our third cheer, this one hurts me right in my heart, but let's play the video on Joshua Jackson's interception against Ohio State, ending the dreams. The huge one-handed catch, just the one-handed yam, give me that, wham. Huge play for Joshua Jackson. What do you guys think? OBJ'd it.
Oh, he did, absolutely. I mean, just making a play like that in such a huge game for Iowa. I mean, playing Ohio State top 10 team at home, making that play. I mean, just look at that. I mean, who can make that type of play?
I think that was his 3rd interception on the day.
Yeah, it was an absolutely crazy
His
game.
3rd interception, individually. That's crazy. Let's go on to our jeers. Our first jeer is on the Cowboys defense. The Cowboys did get the last laugh, but the Cowboys, let's take a look at the video here. I believe Tyreek Hill on the last play, they put all their defenders back, and Tyreek Hill just took it for 57 yards.
I mean, they had 8 guys back, and they only had like 3 blockers going down there in front of Tyreek Hill.
It's 57 yards. You got to know Alex Smith can't throw it there. Put some defenders in the middle of the field, and it's a punt return. It turns into a punt return.
Well, the old cliche is prevent defense always prevents you from winning. I mean, it didn't happen, but I mean, this was just a crazy play.
Yes, that was amazing. The Hill Murray, they called it immediately. All right, so our second jeer is Dom Capers, the Packers defensive coordinator. I'm just going to let the Packer fans take it on this one.
I mean, just watching that entire defense get demolished by Matt Stafford, I mean, that defense was complete, and that was Swiss cheese. I mean, seriously, that defense just got carved up by Matt Stafford, and there was just no stopping him. The Lions did not punt all game.
No, it's crazy. And, as John Gruden pointed out last night, Matt Stafford was finding the turkey holes in between the safety and the corners. Playing that much zone, you're going to give up a lot of yards like that.
Yep, and our last year is the Cleveland Browns. Who else? The Browns on the trade deadline were trading for A.J. McCarron. They didn't get it done in time. They were going to trade a 2nd and 3rd round pick for A.J. McCarron. More than dumpster fire.
I mean, that's almost a second year in itself, giving up that much for McCarron, when it was only a 2nd-round pick given up for Garoppolo, who's a much highly regarded quarterback. And, I mean, they had the trade done in time. They just didn't call it in. They had it 5 minutes ahead of time, I believe, and they just forgot to tell the league.
Yeah, it was just a classic Browns move.
Classic dumpster fire Browns. All right, so we're going to move on to our tiers here. Our first tier is the Nike jerseys malfunctioning in the NBA. We've had a couple of players with torn jerseys, LeBron James being them, Tyler Ennis, not a lot of people know who that is, Ben Simmons and Draymond Green, all with their jersey rips. Does Nike need to fix it?
Absolutely. I mean, I believe they're the same jerseys that people are buying, and, as a consumer, if I bought a jersey like that and it ripped, I'd be totally just devastated. Obviously, for the players, it's a distraction during the game. Then they have to change jerseys if they have extras. And
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a concern, especially since that's their new jerseys, and now just right away
Just
they're starting to
immediately
rip.
tearing.
Yeah.
All right, so for our second tier, we have LeBron James getting hit in the midsection by Lance Stevenson. This is not the first time they've run to blows, but if we watch the video here, yep, right there, wham. Right in the not-so-good area for LeBron. This is the second or third time, I believe, Lance Stevenson's actually just smashed LeBron. If you remember back in the Eastern Conference Finals, back when he was with the Pacers the first time, blowing in his ear and everything else. So, I mean, Lance Stevenson, does he need to be suspended for it, maybe?
I mean, it's going to be tough to suspend him for it, but
Yeah.
I mean, maybe a
Just
fine will
inadvertent.
come his way. Yeah.
Inadvertent.
Yeah, you can
Yeah.
make an argument he was going for the ball.
Yeah, fair. That's fair. All right, so for our last tier, it is actually a tear of joy for Carlos Correa and his girlfriend. We do have a video of it, I believe. Carlos Correa proposing to his girlfriend right after the World Series. Let's see if we got it here. Yep, right here. Yep, he was in the middle of an interview, and he just proposed to her, and she rips away the gate and just mauls him.
I mean, it does not get any better than that.
Why
I mean,
we love sports.
You just win Game 7 of the World Series, the biggest game of your life, and then right after just immediately proposes to his girlfriend. And I mean, that's almost like coming straight out of a movie, coming straight out of a dream or something.
That's some touching stuff, that's for sure.
It is definitely very touching. All right, so we are done with our 3 cheers, jeers, and tears. Now let's go to mail time. So for our first mail time question, should Carmelo Anthony have been suspended for this hit or this play where he drives in and it looks like we do have video. There it is. He drove in baseline. He went up for a layup. It was called a foul on Nurkic, Joseph Nurkic for the Trailblazers. Called an and one. And then they went back and reviewed it, and they called him for a flagrant 2 and ejected Carmelo Anthony for the play.
Yeah, I think that's ridiculous. I believe he was just, going up. He saw Nurkic coming in to block the shot, and he just adjusted midair. And when he was adjusting, he just, happened to catch him in the chops. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think he should be suspended for that. I mean, that's just going up. That's just playing hard basketball.
Yeah, I just don't understand how they ejected him from it.
Right.
Like, they changed it from a foul on the other guy, Nurkic, to
Was it?
Carmelo Anthony, a flagrant 2. Like,
Yeah.
all he did was drive in, adjusted, got fouled, threw in a layup, got an and one, and they changed it to a flagrant 2. I remember I was watching it must have been the Oklahoma City call because they started freaking out, but
Right.
Oklahoma City announcers were just losing their minds like, this is terrible, oh my gosh. It might be one of the worst calls I've ever seen in an NBA game, actually, minus travel calls.
Right.
Travel calls. It's just, I don't understand how you change it from a foul on the defense to a flagrant 2 foul on the offense. It doesn't really make sense to me.
Yeah,
It's
it's
like
very
what you already
confusing.
called on the floor, changing it to something else that's not like a turnover, but a foul call.
Well, and I get it, in professional sports, they're trying to address the concussion issue, and they're going to make it tougher when, there's any contact to the head. But, you'll see it in football with people getting, like, some targeting calls that really, pretty shaky, like this one.
Yep.
I get the premise of the rule, but at the same time, you got to let them play, and stuff happens. It is sports, it's a risky take.
Exactly. So for our second mail time question, is the Packers season over? I believe we have a little picture if we get it up in the back. It's a picture of Brett Hundley standing in a wide open pocket, looking at a wide open Jordy Nelson. Doesn't throw the ball, and he actually got sacked on that play, which could have been easily a touchdown.
Yeah, I don't
If you
think
look
Brett
at it.
Hundley was looking at Jordy Nelson. I mean, when he moves up in the pocket, his eyes were just down. He wasn't looking down the field. And now with the news that Brian Bulaga tore his ACL and Aaron Rodgers is still going to be out for a while, losing those 2 guys, just looking at the rest of the talent on this roster, there's not enough there to compete with the Vikings and the Lions, clearly, in the NFC North, and they're not going to be able to come back. And the season, it's basically over. I think it's time to give up on this season.
I agree. Honestly, the Packers, they should put Aaron on the shelf, put him on ice for the rest of the year. Just keep him healthy. Don't risk like a heaven forbid, like ACL tear or something like that. But just ride it out with Brett Hundley. What you get is what you get, and kind of lower your expectations as Packer fans.
Yeah, definitely. I called this coming when Aaron Rodgers went down. A lot of Packer fans wanted to stay optimistic because they can be optimistic because for the last 20 years they've had just a Hall of Fame quarterback. And anytime you're down and out, it's just somehow miracles happen. Aaron Rodgers, 3 Hail Marys in the past, 2 years? 3 years? It's just anytime the Packers are down and out, they just somehow find a way to win. I just felt like this wasn't one of those times. No more Aaron Rodgers. You got to bring in Brett Hundley. This is the worst roster Aaron Rodgers has been surrounded by in his entire career, probably. Defensively, offensively, the weapons are kind of deteriorating. Jordy after the knee. Randall Cobb isn't really what he used to be. Devontae Adams is ascending, but can he be that number 1 guy for Brett Hundley? I don't know. So I felt like it was coming for the Packers. A lot of Packer fans didn't see it, and I tried to warn them. They didn't want to take it.
Devontae Adams missed a couple of easy catches there down the field. And I mean, let's just face it. I mean, it's a mediocre roster outside of Aaron Rodgers. I mean, he just makes everyone else play better.
Aaron Rodgers is the ultimate mask. So that was our game session. Let's get to a promo from our comm club. Hello and welcome back to Hot Shot Sports, your favorite place for your hot takes. All right, we have some NBA. We've talked a lot of NFL. We've done our games. NBA season is starting to get into full swing now. We're about 10 games in for most teams. And there's definitely a surprise, and it's a very bad one. The Cavaliers are 4-6. They're not losing to good teams. They've lost to the Hawks, Nets, and Knicks, who are combined 11-19 on the year. And they are 13th in the East. What is wrong with LeBron James and the Cavaliers?
I mean, it could just be that they're missing Kyrie Irving. I mean, it's hard to believe, but losing a star like that, I mean, is Isaiah Thomas, he hasn't really been able to do what Kyrie was. And even though they have a bunch of, big names, I mean, it's a lot of older guys. I mean, getting Dwayne Wade, Derrick Rose, I mean, they're good players, but they're older.
I agree, yeah. I think, and like you said, all these new additions, the roster turnover, it's going to take a long time for those guys to build chemistry. Basketball is a really flowy game, and if those guys aren't hitting, JR is shooting, 19.5% from 3 right now.
He's just not hitting his shots.
Yeah, the starters, minus LeBron, of course, have been playing poor. The defense has been poor. Shumpert's been out for, the last 4 games. Yeah, they just need to get healthy and need to work together better.
Definitely. I definitely think Kevin Love is a shell of his old self. Kevin Love used to be 26 points and 12 rebounds daily. That used to be, that's what he's giving you. Now he can't even post up anymore. I remember watching against the Washington Wizards, he posted up John Wall, and John Wall, he took one dribble, John Wall just poked it away from him and took it away. The only thing Kevin Love can do now is spot up in the corner and make a 3. That's the only thing he has, and he can make a nice outlet pass. And then, but I pose this question. Is LeBron James just bored? Because they have only played 3 good teams this year. They're 3-0, and LeBron is averaging 37 points and 68% shooting against those teams. So is he just bored when he's playing, the Knicks, Nets, and Hawks?
Well, I mean, we kind of saw last year how he basically views the regular season as kind of meaningless, and the only real part that matters is the playoffs, because the Cavs are going to get in the playoffs anyways. They're going to have a pretty good seeding.
Yes.
And they're probably going to make it to the finals once again. But, I mean, the regular season, he just doesn't find it as important.
I think they'll figure it out.
Yeah, which will happen when you go to 7 straight finals.
Right.
Anyway, our last topic of the day, Eli Manning on Sunday became the 7th player in his NFL history to get to 50,000 yards passing. He now has 50,000 yards passing and 2 Super Bowls. Is Eli Manning a Hall of Famer? Eli, elite.
No, I'm not going to put him there. Like you mentioned, he's got the 2 Super Bowls, MVPs, but, the other quarterbacks like Bradshaw, Montana, he's not nearly the same quarterback they are, so it's kind of irrelevant. He's only been to 4 Pro Bowls since he's been a pro, so I don't think he's that good.
Definitely.
I mean, it's still going to be hard to keep him out. I mean, with all those stats plus the 2 Super Bowls, and the Manning name, I mean, it's going to be hard to keep him out of the Hall of Fame.
Yep, I put up a Twitter poll. He did win the Twitter poll. It said, yes, he is a Hall of Famer. I'm a man of the people. He is a Hall of Famer. That is our show. This has been Hot Shot Sports. I've been your host, Miles Garvey. Along with me, Kyle Larson, David Gasper. We will see you next time on WMCM.